Hello everyone, welcome back to our discussion on MLOps. So to recap, in our previous video, we were discussing on how you would be maturing in machine learning projects, starting from notebooks, building your own Python module, and finally reaching MLOps, where you have dedicated pipelines to handle your data part as well as your model creation. So there could be two challenges you may run into potentially while working on a machine learning project. One is handling the data. Let's say new features get added, you want to do a lot more transformation. So doing that, we may need a robust pipeline. And the second part was about the model, different experiments. How do you continue with the different versions? So how do you maintain all of those? Right. So today we are going to discuss a tool called Airflow, which is going to help us with our first challenge, and that is how do we manage our data. And if you remember, we were talking about the Titanic data set, and let us recap what we were trying to do. So we were trying a very complicated way of handling our Titanic data set, training our data with a lot of transformation. Like we were trying to figure out the missing values. We are doing lot of feature engineering, like splitting the name, creating bins for age, even trying to figure out the cabin which was missing, and a lot of other stuffs, right? And finally, imagine like you want to keep changing this, you have to go through different notebooks, and it may become overwhelming, right? That could be the right time of thinking of using a tool to handle it. And there could be different ETL tools to handle your data transformation part, and today we will try something called Airflow. So with or Airflow, okay, let me show you what is the capability with Airflow before you dive into an example. So with Airflow, I believe the biggest advantage is its capability to dynamically load. So you make any changes in your pipeline, which we will be seeing, and you save it, it automatically reloads, right? So whenever you are creating an app, it's very easy, and I will show you with a live example. Second is that wonderful web application which they provide, where you can see how your pipeline looks and what actually happens, how you can monitor it, you can trigger a lot of functionalities there. Finally, it also has a concept called operators, which could be considered as plugins in other ETLs like NiFi, which helps you extend and build different kinds of pipeline. Two things to note while working on Airflow. One is a concept called DAG. You create a pipeline inside a DAG, and that you need a database to store your metadata. So while you're running locally, maybe you can use the inbuilt SQLite, but once you are in production, you need a dedicated database for it. Okay, so let's go back to our example. So if you see here inside DAGs, we have this Titanic data one separately, and like I was saying, it gives you a wonderful graph where you can see each step what task we are doing. So we split up our entire Titanic machine learning project into the first part of creating the data, and the output is an encoded data which you can feed it into your machine learning model. And if you see here, the entire coding is in Python, and I will show it in VS Code too, but at the end you are defining different tasks and finally calling the order in which you want those tasks to happen. So I was saying about this dynamic reload, right? So for example, right now I have commented out dropping those columns. So if you see the data, we have lot of columns, right? And imagine we decided, hey, no, I want it back, to drop all those columns. We go to the DAGs and we take our pipeline here. If you go, finally, let's try to uncomment it and save it. This is one of the best features I feel. So once you come back and it reloads, see the drop column, that task also gets added into your pipeline workflow. And so as you can see here, there are different runs, and each of those tasks, whether it failed and what is the status, all of those details you could see in these logs. Right? What is the output of each of the stages, and finally in our case we are saving it as a data file. So this is our inside the database itself, Titanic process data. Right? So if you want to trigger it, there's a trigger button, and now you have the option to visualize what is happening in each step, whether it was successful, and so here how much time it took, right, and whether it was successful, and what is the entire process. Okay. So once this has completed, I will show you that now, because we added the drop columns, the column size would have been reduced. Okay, we are doing the encoding data task. Then we have this task which we added back. So other things, other parts is you even get an option to add variables, which you can use it as an input into your DAGs. We will see in our entire course, right? The next part is adding ML flow into it, so that based on the variables we can add some more features and see how the end-to-end pipeline looks. So this is successful. Now if you go back to the data, we could see that we have dropped many of those columns and we have a more concise data. So this is a very easy way to get started with the pipeline, and it's again extensible. You can run it on clusters and have multiple things running in parallel, processing lot of data. But I hope now you get an idea on how to manage your data preparation part with different ETLs to make your entire pipeline better. Thank you, and see you in the next one, where we dive deep on ML flow and see how you can track your machine learning experiments.